So I finally watched the first 4 episodes of Velma, and my childhood was ruined. My house burned down. I was fired. My wife left me. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. I got into a horrible car accident, and all my hair fell out. Actually, most of that isn't really true, except for the baldness and the disease. I really do have Crohn's disease, and I am bald, so I can't really blame that on the show. And also, my childhood was already ruined, so that's fine. I don't have a lot of opinions of shows or movies, really. Like, I don't take them that seriously because I don't really watch a lot, to be honest. Every once in a while, I'll go check something out if it catches my eye or someone at work tells me about it, but most of the time, I'll just see what's on YouTube. There's just something more genuine about independent creators than studios with million-dollar budgets. I still like some shows just because they're well written and they entertain me in a way that I can't really put my finger on, but they usually follow a main storyline that can last for either a whole season or the entire series, like BoJack Horseman or The Boys. Drawing parallels to why I like YouTube, it's that I can watch my content creators grow and change over the course of their own life story, and even have their own little dramas, which can be pretty entertaining. Watching their rise and fall and occasional resurrection is just more exciting to me than a plot that was written by a group that has to cater to the whims of producers and advertisers. In other words, it just feels more natural to me. So I found it really suspicious that a lot of YouTubers I follow suddenly took a keen interest in the new Velma show, especially since they not only had the exact same opinion about it, but that most of these channels aren't really known for being review channels. I thought for a moment about what could be the reason for this phenomenon. The logical thing to do with a show you don't like is to just not watch it, not draw as much attention to it as possible, along with hundreds of others who are doing the exact same thing. It's almost like they're talking about it just because everyone else is talking about it and they want to get views by covering a controversial subject while not being controversial enough as creators to offer a different opinion. I get it though. Nobody wants to be the odd man out. If you have a channel and you depend on it for your livelihood, you want to make sure you have the correct opinion so that you don't rock the boat too much. Lose subscribers, lose advertising, and ultimately lose your bottom line. That's just what it means to run a business. And it is a business. The customer wants something new, but they don't want something different. So you'll cover the newest trends, but your opinion will probably be whatever is most popular, and Velma's being raked over the coals, so everyone is saying it's bad. But after actually watching it with an open mind, I'm starting to really wonder how many creators actually saw the show or just copied what everyone else was saying about it. First things first, you really can't watch this show and compare it to the original. The characters are completely different, aside from having the same names and being designed somewhat similarly. This might be hard to hear, but the original characters were one-dimensional and didn't really have personalities. Here, this is a summary. Velma: Jinkies, a clue. Daphne: sarcastic comment about how Shaggy and Scooby eat too much. Fred: let's split up, gang. Scooby: well, I'm scared and also I like to eat a lot. Shaggy: I'm scared and also like to eat a lot, but I'm secretly an unstoppable cosmic horror with powers beyond any mortal comprehension. Zoinks! If you've seen one episode, you've seen them all. Don't you dare fucking tell me that Scooby-Doo had a plot. They run around in an abandoned whatever and get chased by some moron in a costume for a while, until they discover he's a moron in a costume, and then he goes to jail. It's so corny that it even had canned laughter. Holy shit. So I guess you could say I'm biased because I never liked the original, and believe me, it wasn't for lack of trying. I've watched enough of it over the years that it should have at some point grown on me, but it never did. I couldn't escape it. Anyone alive has probably watched it. Shit. Back when cable TV existed, you could flip through the channels and probably find an episode playing somewhere. Between all the versions and remakes of it, there are more episodes of Scooby-Doo than Walmarts in America, and they're all the goddamn same. I know that some people watching this video might think I'm a giant hypocrite for talking about Velma after I just explained that other people are only talking about it because it's a popular topic. The difference is that my channel barely has any subscribers, so I don't care if I lose any. I'm just giving my opinion because I feel like it. It's almost like people used to make videos because it was fun and they wanted to, not because they're being forced to make videos and will probably just get fucked over by YouTube anyway, who can choose to just not pay them for any arbitrary bullshit reason they can think of. Nobody could have possibly foreseen or avoided. Before I started watching the show, I already knew a few basic things about the characters, based on a few reviews. I knew Velma was voiced by Kelly from The Office, and that show's kind of like a snarky, vindictive little asshole who, now that I think about it, is sort of like Daria Morgendorffer if she was just really angry all the time. I knew Shaggy and Scooby weren't even in the show, but there was a character who was sort of meant to be like a bizarre borrow Shaggy named Norville, who was sort of a nerd or something. I knew Daphne was basically just the movie Mean Girls and Fred was a spoiled rich dumbass. I also knew that there was some kind of a murder mystery and that it really likes to show naked cartoon tits and violence. I don't really have a problem with watching fake violence, let alone cartoon violence, but it's a little weird how comfortable the show is with sex and nudity involving high school students. Like, I'm kind of just imagining a writing team sitting around the table like, yeah, it all starts with these girls in the shower talking about overused horror movie tropes, and it's like, yeah, barely censored with soap and shadows and stuff, and there's like fighting and they're on the floor and everything, and we make it look ironic because they're criticizing shows for using nudity. And the scene itself played out like as a sort of a take on slasher movies, so the extended nudity makes some sense, or at least an excuse. Later on, there's an episode where Daphne's clique of hot girls save a woman in labor by jiggling their asses at grown men until they move their cars for an ambulance to get through.
Kinda makes a fella wonder.
So anyway, after actually watching the first 4 episodes and getting invested in the plot, I'm actually kind of intrigued. Like, I want to see what happens. I actually kind of want to know where the story goes. The characters are a bit more deep than I was led to believe, and actually go through character development over the series, contrary to what I heard in the reviews I've watched. Velma is definitely a jerk, but you learn that her mom ran out on her family, and that it gave her paralyzing hallucinations, and that it really did make her lash out at everyone around her. And she does actually want to change and be better. We learn Daphne isn't actually a stereotypical mean girl, but Velma just projected that identity onto her when she pushed everyone else away. Daphne was her childhood friend who wanted to continue being friends, but Velma just assumed she was being an asshole because she became pretty unpopular. Norville has an unrequited crush on Velma, and it seems like his character arc is about having faith in himself, so he doesn't need to seek validation from unrequited crushes. Also, his character is basically that he's the complete opposite of Shaggy, so he's very much straight edge, which is often played for laughs, and even I thought it was funny. Even Fred has a character arc. He's actually the first friend Velma makes on the show, and he gradually learns to care about other people over time. Fred suffers quite a lot, and I actually feel bad for him. The only reason he's unable to take care of himself is really because his parents babied him since he was born, and never really bothered to raise him properly. They can barely tolerate him and seem embarrassed of him, and it seems like they only had him so he could take over the family business when they die. I mean, you would think that the wealthiest family in town could afford to homeschool him or hire a private tutor or send him to a private school instead of sending him to a notoriously shitty public school and then blame him for being a bad student, negligent bastards. I don't really think the writers put much thought into Fred aside from just making him basically Peter Griffin with money, because they can't really get consistent with writing him. In one episode, he's like this slick and confident rich kid who actually has some funny lines. Then in the next episode, he's a bumbling idiot who can barely function without supervision. Velma has a crush on him in one episode and is like suddenly just sort of hostile towards him in the next one. I don't know if this is because my ears are broken, since I actually have around like 15% hearing loss in my left ear, but I swear it sounds to me like a lot of characters say Thelma, like Thelma and Louise, instead of Velma. I'm not really sure if they are saying Thelma or Velma, but neither would surprise me. If Fred is written to be like Peter Griffin, Velma definitely drew some inspiration from Meg, with how a lot of people just don't like her very much and she's an outcast misfit, so it's actually secretly clever if most of the characters were actually mispronouncing her name because they don't care enough about her to learn it. It definitely seems like the show is mostly about Velma and Daphne, while Norville and Fred are just supporting characters. And if you were to start watching this show with that in mind, not that it's a remake of Scooby-Doo without Scooby-Doo, or better yet, you just watch it at face value and don't mentally associate it with the original Scooby-Doo, it's fine. I think it's redundant that Daphne is trying to find her biological parents while Velma's trying to find her mother. Like, they're just using the same plot device for 2 different characters, so unless something happens later on in the season that reveals that all these disappearing parents are somehow actually linked, a similarity that just feels like lazy writing. On the other hand, it's sadly common for a parent to suddenly up and abandon their family, so if anything, this plot point may actually be more realistic than I'm giving it credit for. So yeah, after actually watching it, it's just a show. It's not going to kill you, it's not going to give you nightmares. It wasn't birthed from the anus of Satan, it's just a show. If you don't like it, you really don't have to watch it. Or better yet, you could even just watch any of the other 14 TV series, 42 animated films, 5 live-action films, or play any of the 20 video games. The only reason I bothered watching Velma at all was because everyone and their mom won't shut the fuck up about how awful it is. You do know what the Streisand effect is, right? The more you tell someone not to do something, the more they're going to want to do it. On the contrary, if I'm watching YouTube and 90% of the videos I watch begin with telling me how super duper fucking awesome, cool, and sweet Raid Shadow Legends extensions and ExpressVPN are, not only will I never try either of them, but I will be slightly disgusted with whoever's talking about them. If any of these people really feel this strongly about the show, they wouldn't be spreading awareness of it nonstop. I'll bet HBO Max loves the free publicity. Good job, guys. I wouldn't have even cared about watching it if it wasn't literally everywhere. Just to put this in perspective, I have seen 2 commercials for this on actual television, but 20 videos in my subscription feed talked about it. What did you expect to happen? Now they're already talking about picking it up for a second season. Was that what you expected? So are you angry that you failed to stop it, or are you relieved because now it means you have guaranteed content in the future? Hello, this is me, post-me. Thank you for watching my video if you made it this far. While you're here, I would like to go and take a minute to sit right there and talk about my second channel that I have with my friend, where we do an animated style podcast where we just talk about things that are happening. We talk about video games, we talk about news, we talk about just things going on in the world in the form of an animated podcast that we both animate. Of course, we don't have a lot of stuff going out because we do both work full-time, so we're not quite available, but, you know, we do our best. And yeah, if you feel interested, maybe check it out. It's sort of off the cuff, unscripted, and thank you for watching my video. Signing off, have a wonderful day.